Hey YouTube, in this deck profile, we're going to be going over my Nubatama deck. So this deck is probably going to change pretty soon here. I will probably be going with the, what do they call them, those, the token-based deck. Akatsuki Hanzo, probably going to go with him. I already have him in the binder, I just don't use him. I choose to use this one because this one's more about hand manipulation. This is the old school build that's been around for a while. I really like it because I played Nubatama in Break Ride format during like Chaos Breaker and Raging Form Revenger that time when he was new. When the Break Rides were new for Nubatama, you could actually build the deck. It was one of the most hyped up decks in the very beginning, along with Chaos Breaker. And then I guess like Tetra Drive, but he kind of would like auto lose to Link Joker. But this deck didn't, because this deck was cool. This deck was all about binding, and then now it's more about like hand disruption. But it does hand disruption in a fair and balanced way. So we'll get right into it. It's interesting because it's a Protect clan too, which is very unique for Nubatama. I think it fits right in as a Protect clan because it's very defensive style. So for Shura Stealth Dragon Kujikiricongo, so he used to be a Break Ride. This is the original art of him. But now he has two effects, both Vanguard effects. His main phase effect is you can just straight up counterblast if the opponent has 4 more. Counterblast 1, the opponent has to discard a card. Just straight up. It's like, say goodbye to a card, I don't care, say goodbye to a card. You pick it, just get rid of something in your hand. That's a straight up hand disruption. And then his other Vanguard effect is an auto effect. When your opponent's rear card is returned to the hand by your card ability, your opponent cannot call cards with the same grade as the returned one. So that is very good at shutting down like grade 1s from being called down as 10k shields. That can stop pesky grade 2s from coming out to help close off or make something 2 to pass. You know, it's just very good skill. So Kujikiricongo, very cool, very unique Protect clan playstyle. Next, we are running Stealth Dragon Voidmaster. He is back in the game. Well, he's been back for a while, but I mean, I remember the original Voidmaster from BT01, old school Vanguard. This was a 9k grade 3 back in the day, but Voidmaster, he's back in action. When he's placed, your opponent can't intercept straight up. Like, till the end of the turn, can't intercept. Any of the battles can't intercept. So he shuts down the intercepts, and then you can do stuff like, you know, bounce something. It's awesome. And combo that with Kujikiricongo. It's Vanguard Regard effect, and then his other effect, Vanguard Regard. At the end of the battle, he attack, counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, return to the hand. So these two work very well. You get to pick. So you will always pick like the one in the back. Or like you'll pick the pesky, you know, like Sunset Edge or something in the back row that's annoying, has an on-hit skill when it boosts. Send that up. They can't call grade 1s now because of him. It's awesome. It's just hilarious. And then they can't intercept either. So it's the way I feel like a Protect clan is supposed to be. Controlling the opponents, taking away options from the opponent and slowly whittling them down. Next we're running 2 Stealth Beasts Koku Shigaras. So this guy, he is kind of like the new Voidmaster, or Voidmaster, because Voidmaster used to be the weak 9k grade 3. Now this guy's the weak 11k grade 3. And he doesn't have the Protect marker, so you don't want to really ever ride him as a Vanguard, especially as a first Vanguard, because that usually means that you're probably going to lose the game if you do that. But we run 2 of him for his play where he basically makes the opponent minus so hard. The opponent has to discard 5 cards if you ever pull this off. And because we are a Protect clan, getting the 2 Sentinels for the discard isn't really the hard part. It's more about managing the soul, because there's a lot of cards in here that soul blast a lot. So you're going to have to ride at least like 3 times just about to be able to pull this guy's effect off. Because it's soul blast 3, so with all the grade 2s and grade 1s soul blasting, it's gonna be hard to do his effect, but we'll get into that here. So 2 of him. So just like with most of my Protect clans that you've seen, like my OTT builds, I run 9 grade 3s in this build, and it works out perfect. For grade 2s, we're running 4 Magatsu Gale. We run 4 of him. He doesn't fit in the deck as well as I wish he would, but he does do enough good for the deck that he's worth running at 4 copies. So basically when placed, he counterblasts 1 and soul blasts 1 and draws a card, and he gets 6k power. I mean, there's nothing really bad about that, except it's kind of resource heavy. The only thing I don't like is the soul blast. because the deck is very Soul Blast heavy. But at the end of the battle, he attacks. You can put him into the Soul and return one of your rear guards to your hand. So he does the opposite. He actually bounces one of your rear guards back up, so you can use it. Usually you want to use that with like something that has an on-call effect. But he does go into the Soul, so he does refund his Soul Blast potentially. And he draws your card. So he does minus himself off to bounce something, but it does kind of work out. So next we run 4 Stealth Beast Tamahagane, because he is very, very good for hand disruption with Kujikiricongo. Now, I think, yeah, these two are from different sets. So the designers meant for him to work with Jamyo Congo or one of the other guys, which I'll probably showcase in another deck profile in the future, because Jamyo Congo is probably arguably the strongest Nubatama deck right now in Standard. But Tamahagane is still really good in this deck. Basically, when you place him as a rear guard, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and bounce it up to the hand. If it was returned, your opponent chooses a card from his hand, discards it. So, really nice effect overall. You get to choose what goes back, then they have to throw something out of their hand. And then if the opponent has 4 less cards, he gets 5k power. So, very good overall with Kujikiricongo. He complements Kujikiricongo because if they have high hand, he makes them get rid of a card. If they have low hand, then this guy's strong. So, very nice. And then the only other grade 2 I'm running is Kujikiricongo. He used to be a grade 3 that you would like break right on top of Kujikiricongo, but now he's a grade 2 that assists him in a different way. When he's placed, if you have Kujikiricongo as a Vanguard, he gains 3k power until end of turn, and then you can counterblast 2, that's a heavy cost, but he returns all the units in the same column as him. So the opponent bounces their grade 2 and grade 1, or sometimes it's a grade 3 and a grade 1, but essentially it sends those 2 up, and then it combos with this effect, because now they can't guard with a grade 2 or a grade 1 most of the time. And then they have to discard 2 cards equal to, or they have to discard up to the number of cards that were returned from his effects. So usually it's bounce 2, they have to discard 2. So that's really nice. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll throw away like the grade 2, or they'll throw away the 2 cards that they got sent up because they can't use them anymore. Yeah, it makes, this deck is nice because it makes the opponent make suboptimal bad plays, or make very poor decisions, or make decisions that won't really help them as much as they think it will. So that's why it's a very interesting playstyle. Next, we are running 4 Tsumuji Basho. This guy is he's also not meant to work in this deck, but he does work. Sometimes he helps the opponent a little bit, and I'll give you an example. Like in one game, I bounced, or they discard a card, and then he reveals them a card from the top of the deck, and then they add it to the hand. So I basically, like, he revealed a card, it was like a PG. That's like the worst case scenario, but he does gain 10k power for each grade of the card. So usually what they'll do is, see, it manipulates them. So usually what they'll do is if they throw away a critical trigger from the hand, and then they'll reveal a card and they'll get it. Like, let's say they throw away a trigger, but then they get a 3. He won't get any power, but now they have way less shield. If they throw away a 2 or a 3 that has no shield, he gains like 30k power if they throw away a 3. So it's really nice because it manipulates the choices that they make. So it's really cool, the play style. Next, we're running 4 Stealth Rogue of the Night Sakura Fubuki. This card was actually pretty hard for me to obtain. It's kind of hard to find this card. It's probably the last card that I needed to max out 4 copies of. I had everything else. I had like one of these for the longest time, and then now I finally had like the play set. So this is your counter charger in the deck. Discards a card when you place it. If you have 3 or more units, it gets 3k, and then if there's 1 or less face-up cards in the damage zone, you draw a card and you soul charge, or you counter charge 1. So pretty essential, I would say. That's why most of the Nubatama players will run max copies of this. The next, I'm running 3 Tempest Stealth Rogue Fuki. This card, every time something gets bounced, every time your opponent's rear guard is returned. So it's nice because it works with Magatsu Gale as well, who can send your own stuff up. He gets 5k or 6k power. So Very nice boost power for Protect. They kind of need something like this to make their columns scarier. So this, combining the fact that they're losing cards from their hand, so they're reducing their overall shield value, and then this is like powering up off of that. It's a natural fit with the playstyle. You could run 4 of these if you want, but I opted to run 2 Stealth Rogue of Gold Hooks Ogita. This is a newer card. It's from BT07. But the reason why I'm running this is actually meant to work with Hanzo. But we're running it because the deck has soul problems. So the cool thing about it is when it attacks or boosts, so the nice thing is it doesn't have to hit. If your opponent has 1 or less rear guards, put a grade 2 or less from the jobs into the soul. So it doesn't happen that often, which is why I'm not really running more than 2 copies of it. Because the only way it can go off is if the opponent has 1 or less rear guards. And that's why it's good with Hanzo and not so much in this deck. But because, like for example, on the plays where you run this guy, let's say they have like a lane with 2 and like the other column only has 1 rear guard. So you'll call this guy down to the lane that has the 2. You'll send those 2 up, then it has 1, and then this guy will be able to do his effect when he boosts. So stuff like that can happen. And also sometimes the opponent will tend to, it really depends on the opponent if they know how to play against Nubatama. What I've seen sometimes in the early game, they'll like keep stuff in their hand because they want to they want to go off all at once, like on their turn 3 or whatever. So you'll if you open up with one of these, you'll usually want to put it down as a rear guard early, so you can do like your Soul Blast plays with him or Magatsu, and then you can like refund those guys that you Soul Blasted out because your grade 2 that got Soul Blasted from either him or someone else, tamahagane or something. You can put them back in with this guy. Your grade 2 or less. So even the starter can be put back in. That's why it's pretty good. So 2 of him. And then we just run standard lineup. We run Mijin Gakure for the Draw Sentinel. All the classics. So Kurogane, critical. Ganbaku, I don't remember if he was a critical trigger back in the day. Maybe he was. I know they have another one too. Tobi Hiko or Tobi Hito or something. But I'm not running that guy in here, so I'm just running the standard lineup, and then I'm running Zashikihime 4 heal, and then the Magatsu win, because they don't have any other starter. So that's it for the Nubatama deck. Let me know what you guys think of this deck. It's definitely a very interesting deck, and it does require a high level of understanding of the game to play it effectively. So definitely this is a difficulty level hard to play, just like Kujikiricongo. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.